Well, welcome everybody. My name is Ben Irwin. I'm the Chief Communication Manager for the City of Arvada. And one of the things we do during the COVID-19 crisis is a bunch of communicators in the city, public information officers, communication strategists, get together every day at the beginning of the day to talk about what we've heard, what's going on in the community, and what do we need to try to communicate more about. And lately, we've been getting a lot of questions, understandably, from the community. So I thought it would be a good idea to have a conversation with several of my other colleagues in the city. So Allie, Dave, can you go ahead and introduce yourselves?
Sure, no problem. My name's Allison Trembly, and I am the Communications and Marketing Manager for the Community and Economic Development work system here at the City of Arvada. I also work as the Communications for Arvada Economic Development Association here at the city.
And thanks, Ben. I'm Dave Snelling. I'm the Public Information Officer with the Police Department and currently taking care of many answers to questions coming in on a daily basis about this current situation.
Well, I can't thank both of you enough for being here. I know that people in the community probably don't realize that we work together a lot on a lot of different things, but over the last several weeks, we've really had to work almost exclusively on different facets of the novel coronavirus outbreak. And so, it's been, I don't know about you, but it's been an intense 2 or 3 weeks here, a lot of changes. Probably the biggest change so far generally is the social or physical distancing part, but really it's the stay-at-home order, I think, the statewide stay-at-home order. And so we've gotten, once that came out last week, we got a lot of questions, obviously. And so I thought we could use this time maybe to talk and go through some of the questions we've heard, and just have a conversation about it. I'd probably start off by just acknowledging that, the stay-at-home order and the physical distancing is a huge challenge for our local businesses. And Allie, I know that that's a focus of yours. So could you maybe talk a little bit about what the community partners in the city are doing to support local businesses?
Sure, no problem. First off, I just want to say that before even any of this started, we have excellent relationships with our partners, the Arvada Chamber, the Arvada Visitor Center, the Business Improvement District in Old Town, Community First Foundation, the list Apex, the Arvada Center, it all goes on and on. So way back on March 10th, when things started to come about, we were already leaping into action and working together as a bigger group to find out how we could best help all of our businesses and organizations throughout the city. And so through that, we started doing daily conference calls. We would all get together and talk about, hey, what is happening today? What can we do? What needs to be addressed later on this week? And we started to design different programs. We put together a toolkit with the Arvada Chamber, which is on their website. And eventually we grew into the Arvada Resiliency Task Force. And we are still connecting twice a week, if not daily, on different issues and working towards connecting with all of our businesses and organizations about the resources they need.
Allie, if I were a business in Arvada, how would I know if my business qualifies under the state order as essential?
That's a great question, Dave. What I would like to do is direct people to the state website, which is, let me see if I can find this, covid.colorado.gov. And there you'll see on their webpage a list of all essential to non-essential businesses.
Actually, it's just minor correction. It's covid19.colorado.gov. And I'm going to try to take some notes during this conversation, and we can display some of those links and websites at the end of the conversation. So Allie, Dave, if you could just remind me, I will try to do my best at the end of this to do that. I know that we've heard a little bit about the enforcement issue and just staying with businesses for a bit, kind of understanding what constitutes, an essential business versus not an essential business. I know we've gotten a lot of questions about that. So just wondering if you could share anything about that aspect of it.
Yeah, I guess the best advice is going to that web page and checking to see the difference between an essential and non-essential business. And if there is a gray area, reaching out and asking, hey, is my business essential? Can I be open during this time? And then if it's not essential, then we ask that, you know, you follow the rules and you close your business. But Dave, did you want to talk a little bit about how we're handling enforcement?
Yeah, absolutely. So on the enforcement side, you know, the state order has asked people to stay home. And specifically, the reason is so that people do have that social distancing piece and the disease is not continuing to spread. So that really becomes a personal protection for people, that it's up to each individual to go ahead and do that and to maintain, you know, that ability to stay home. So as far as enforcement from the police department, we're really not seen through this order as an enforcement piece. The entity that does the enforcing will come from the Jefferson County Department of Health, and they are kind of taking the lead on that enforcement piece as far as, you know, taking complaints, so on and so forth.
I mean, it's really about, you probably said this, but it's really about personal responsibility. I mean, that's the focus, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, absolutely. You know, people call and they're concerned that there's people on a playground, or there's folks out walking violating the 6-foot social distancing rule. And really at this point in time, you know, people should take this ability to take care of themselves, make sure that they stay healthy and that they're not, you know, spreading any illness amongst their family and friends, and take care of their family and loved ones at home.
And one thing I'd like to add as well is that if you go to the business toolkit, and you're going to see the link to that at the end of this, it's on the Arvada Chamber website, or you can find it on Arvada Economic Development Association's website. But we actually have a tab called Health and Safety. And so if your business is essential and you're open and you're wondering about those safe distancing procedures, you'll see all of those under that tab on that toolkit, in that toolkit.
Yeah, that's helpful. You know, I liked what you said, Dave, about the personal responsibility, and just like we're asking for people to, the education piece, the people kind of just following these guidelines, these rules as a sense of their own, you know, kind of their own contribution to the effort. You know, I just wanted to add, we get a lot of questions about people using city facilities that are open or a portion of them are closed, like our parks. So a lot of people don't know that our parks, open space and trails are open to the public, provided people follow the distancing guidelines. Facilities like playgrounds, skate parks, tennis courts, pickleball courts, that type of thing, they're all closed, right? And we're getting a lot of people calling and saying, what is the city going to do about folks who aren't following the rules, aren't observing the posted signs, and still continue to do that? And I mean, the message really is like, we are all asking people to do their own, to do their own part. And we're hoping that over time that will impact everyone and everyone will get on board. I mean, that's essentially it, right?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, the entire goal of all of this messaging is to spread out, you know, any peak of contamination. So when you have children or teenagers or even adults congregating at any of the facilities you mentioned, you just risk spreading that. And then that part risks a spike in people being sick. And then that spike impacts the emergency services, to include fire, police, paramedics, hospitals, and ER staff. So again, the goal is prevention, personal responsibility, taking care of yourself, and hopefully other people will follow that lead. And yeah, there's signage and information up at all of those facilities that you mentioned. And it's just being a great community member and not, you know, continuing this illness and saving room at the hospital for people who may desperately need it.
Yeah. I mean, on that note, that's a really serious note, and that's where it needs to be. I guess kind of to make a light, I ask you this all the time. Are we still safe? I mean, this is a scary time, and I think it's reasonable. I know people have asked questions either directly or kind of on the edges around kind of what is this doing to our safety generally? Are we seeing other impacts that are you know, beyond just exposure to the disease? What does safety and public safety look like right now in our community?
I got to say, I actually just had a meeting with, our officers going out on shift at 2 p.m. today, and they were actually saying how well our community is responding. Very pleased. They actually say, there's a few more lulls in activity during the day in their shift, which is fantastic. It means that people are listening to the orders. They're staying home. They're staying safe. We're going to see commonly, like we do in the winter, an uptick and maybe some family squabbles and things like that. But that's totally expected when families are together. But generally, overall, our crime rate, I would say, or our reported crime is down during this time. So it's allowing our officers to be out, to be visible, to do that extra patrol, to be in the neighborhoods or be areas that maybe a business is closed. Keep an eye on those businesses. We actually have officers out rattling doors in the evening when we know that a business owner may not be there the next day. So it's obviously a unique and new situation, but our community is really stepping up.
Yeah, that's great. That's great news. Is there anything else, I'm kind of picking on you right now, but is there anything else we can share about what people can expect related to COVID? We hear a lot about PPE, personal protective equipment, and other things. Can you give people an idea of what they can expect if during this period of stay at home, they need to call for service for the police department?
Oh, absolutely. So when you call, what you're going to get is a conversation with the dispatcher. And those dispatchers now will ask you, in addition to the address, location of your emergency, they will ask you if you may have signs or symptoms, fever, cough, any of those symptoms that may be, concerning. They're only doing that so that our first responders can don the appropriate protective equipment. And in doing so, you may see a firefighter or a police officer arrive at your door. They may be wearing an N95 mask, a face shield, maybe even a white Tyvek suit. That's no indication that they think, you could have this disease. That's just to protect them as well as the first responders. So they're actually doing, their best to keep themselves safe, not contaminate people or situations from call to call. The fire department's doing the exact same thing. And there may even be a point where officers or paramedics arrive and they hand you a surgical mask and ask you to put it on, again, just for their safety and ours. So yeah, it's a completely different look, and it may be a little unnerving at first, but it's kind of a new normal for people.
I want to talk a little bit about kind of get to the action. There's an action section of this conversation, I think, but before we do that, I wanted to hammer through a couple of other questions. I think that would be a good time to just share, where are we hearing these questions? We're encouraging people to ask as many questions as possible about the city's response to COVID by using Ask Arvada, which is our online customer relationship management portal. So you can go to the website and search for Ask Arvada, or go to arvada.org/ask-arvada. We also have an email address you can use to ask questions. It's called COVID Response, all one word, covidresponse@arvada.org. And so we're hoping that we're getting a number of questions coming in there, and we hope to use formats like this and some of our other communications tools to help answer those questions. One question people had is what's happening with regular business in the city? And there's been some high profile or very consequential issues in front of the community right now that were about to become part of the dialogue, and then COVID hit. So what happens with all of that? And I think that there's two things to say there. One is the city is really committed to keeping services going, especially core services. We've heard about public safety, but we'll talk a little bit maybe about utilities and streets maintenance. The core services must continue, but the city's making every effort through remote working and social distancing to be able to continue other city services as well. And so within that, however, some of these larger topics that really deserve a full debate in public, in some cases need a due process in front of council. We want to try to postpone those conversations until a time when it can happen in person. So one of those is waste hauling. A lot of people have questions about waste hauling, what's happening with that. And it was due to start the public process on March 16th. And we have tentatively rescheduled that later in the summer, late spring, early summer. And we'll continue to evaluate, working with council on the schedule for that. Another question we get is about essential personnel. And we mentioned the essential services, streets maintenance, keeping the water running, that type of thing. Does the city have a plan for that? And we do. The city team has an emergency operations plan that's been in effect for quite a while. In advance of COVID, city leadership and the city teams got together and began thinking through kind of what our response to this potential outcome would be. And the focus has been on keeping those core services happening, regardless of the number of people on our team that might be impacted by COVID-19 in one way or another. So we have got continuity of operations plans and emergency operations plans that we're putting into place right now. Dave, it's kind of police department and just the public safety first responder kind of world is a little bit different. I mean, social distancing is not necessarily a thing for your colleagues and yourself, but talk about continuity of operations and what that means from the perspective of the police.
Yeah, so when we're operating, the police department obviously has an operations plan that was developed and designed at the beginning of this event that we try to stick to and maintain. We want to have that. We want to be able to keep continuing to provide service for the community at the level that they've experienced. So as we have, instances where officers may be even exposed, or there may be incidents, we have the ability to pull from other resources to make sure that our number one goal of having a full complement of patrol officers is out there every day. And that's our number one goal, to be able to respond immediately. And then we will investigate and do what we need to do as far as the normal operations within the police department that people don't already see or normally see. So our continuity continues to backfill patrol just to make sure that that service is available and that the emergencies are being attended to.
That's great. So one of the last things before we kind of wrap up is I want to just talk a little bit about some assistances out there. People are asking questions about how, water bill payments the city handles, and what happens if somebody's not able to pay their water bill. And so we'll provide that number for you later, but the number to call is the water billing line at 720-898-7070. The city does offer payment plans for people who qualify, so you're encouraged, if you're having trouble paying that bill, call the city and work with them. We're also getting a lot of questions from business owners and resources they can give, impacted employees, from just people who may be struggling to make ends meet right now, pay rent, that type of thing. In addition to some of the resources Ali mentioned, we just want everybody to know that 211, the state's 211 phone number, is now available to answer questions and connect people to resources in response to COVID. So if you need help with paying rent, or you need options, we would recommend calling 211 to talk to an operator about those needs. So as we kind of look to wrap this up, Ali, I wanted to kick it to you, start off a conversation about action. I mean, it's right to feel scared. This is a scary situation. It's right to be concerned, but it's also important to understand that there's a lot we can do. That we have control over what happens with this, with COVID-19. We're empowered with a lot of different things we can do. I thought maybe you could just share a couple of ideas of things that from your perspective, of what people can do to empower themselves and help our community during this challenging time.
Definitely. So that's a great question. And so as far as you as an individual, how can you help? Well, we have on the business Arvada Chamber website, there's a place called the Takeover Takeout, and it's a directory of all the open restaurants in Arvada. And we encourage you to go there and look for your favorite eatery and, have it delivered to your home, or go pick up, take out, and support our restaurants and our food organizations here in businesses here in Arvada. We also have another program called, it's like the Chow Down for Champions program. And so if you want to make a donation, Basically, that program's set up where we're taking donations and we're buying takeout food, and we're giving it to first responders. We did it with the fire department, we did it with Dave and the police department, and now we're also doing it with frontline staff here around the city, like wastewater and those different departments. And so definitely you can also go there and make a donation. The other thing is how do you support your business? You know, you can buy a gift card, you can prepay for services, you could even just call and check in to see how they're doing and if they need anything. Some businesses have just completely shut down and they're just kind of waiting for, you know, for the date where they can reopen at full capacity. Others are doing, you know, abbreviated service. And so those are all things that you guys can do to help our business community at this time. The wedding seamstress here in Arvada, they couldn't continue to do wedding dresses, and so they actually started making masks, and they did 500 masks for the hospital here. And so again, if your business is donating food to needy families or donating supplies and you need help with that, please contact us. You can contact me at Trembly at arvada.org, and we'll put that information up at the end. You can also call our business line and we can help connect you.
That's great. Thanks for all those great ideas. Dave, same question to you. What are some of your top takeaways of things people can do to help themselves and help the community in this challenging time?
This is going to be a period of time before this is over. So that being said, I think it's very important that people are patient and they're kind to one another and that they follow the rules. The rules are going to be there, you know, for these people in our community to be safe. So I think one of the number one things is that people, you know, remain kind, do those distance random act of kindness things, do the Child for Champions. We were the beneficiaries of one of those first ones. It was fabulous. There's a lot of ways to reach out. Thank you, Hester Gloves, for contributing. We've had many other contributors in the police department as well for safety equipment, from Lowe's to Home Depot to average citizens. So I'm really impressed and really pleased at how the Arvada community is stepping up. It's absolutely fantastic.
That's wonderful. Yeah, you see it all the time. You see it in the social media commentary that's happening where people are participating and checking in on different people and sharing good stories that are happening. I'd say for my takeaways, you know, I would just bring up the end here by saying it's so important to stay informed about what's going on. So, you know, people should continue to follow the state and local health officials, the Colorado Department of Public Health and Environment, the Jefferson County Public Health Department, the Tri-County Public Health Department, for those of us that live in Adams County. So just keep doing that, and then don't forget to go to our website. So we do have a set of web pages for the city. It's the direct link is arvada.org/COVID-19 will take you here. We will keep this updated. You can see that there's a list of affected city services and some frequently asked question-like information. There is information about the stay-at-home order and the city's perspective on that and what we're doing. And then there's also this sort of idea of we can do this. Encourage people to get to know this page where there's a lot of different resources offered. And then also we've created a Speak Up Arvada page. Speak Up Arvada is our online engagement platform for the city. So if you go to speakup.arvada.org, you'll find a We Can Do This tab. If you look at that and click on that, you have an opportunity to kind of see a lot of different things that are going on in the community, ideas from people that they've offered for ways to interact with each other in a socially or a physically distant way, ways to celebrate parts of the community, and more ideas for surviving and thriving in this period of physical distance. So just want to share that. Allie, you mentioned the Arvada Resiliency Task Force. A lot of that content is hosted on the Arvada's Chamber of Commerce page. So I wanted to make sure people knew that. That's www.arvadachamber.org. There's information about help for paying your water bill, 720-898-7070. Dial 211 for other assistance related to COVID, other needs that you might have and information you might need about COVID. Allie, you mentioned your point of contact. Do you want me to write that down?
Yeah, that'd be great. Yeah, it's my email address, and I would love to hear from you if you have a question or a need.
What's the best way to get a hold of you, Dave?
No, people can call me directly, Ben, at 720-898-6654, or they can do my email at dave-s@arvada.org.
All right, and I put down my email address, which you're welcome to use. However, I also encourage you to ask your questions, covidresponse@arvada.org, because we have a whole team of people taking in questions there and kind of sending them off to the right place. Is there anything else that you want to add before we?
The state address that we mentioned at the beginning, is that somewhere? Is that on our website, or so that people can find it? I just wanted to make sure people knew the address so they can find out if they're essential or not as a business.
Yes, so it is on our webpage. It's also a pretty easy URL to remember. It's covid19.colorado.gov.
Nice. Thank you so much.
You can always go to 211 if you don't have internet. Some people in our community presumably aren't watching this if they don't have a great internet connection, but if for whatever reason they need to use a telephone, they can get that information through 211 as well.
Great. Thank you.
Thank you so much, everybody. Thanks for listening. And again, hope you stay well and have moments to connect with your family and your neighbors, even if it has to be physically distant. So everyone be well. Thank you.